Hello everyone, happy Tuesday. It's time for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. This is Lena Gersa. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Cambridge, Ontario, Canada. And today I am so excited to share with you my new favorite stamp set, the Circle Celebration stamp set. Now this stamp set is in the January to June mini catalog, this one here. And honestly, I'm betting you probably missed it. It is one that, you know what, you kind of can just look right past. It's on page 38. I'm getting notifications here. Let's get rid of that. It's on page 38 of the catalog. And it's one that, again, you can just sort of brush past because it doesn't have a huge layout. Honestly, the samples they're pretty, but they're nothing spectacular. But I have to say, after playing with this a lot over the last few days, I have fallen madly in love with this stamp set. Now, I have to say, several years ago, like a long time ago, Stampin' Up! Carried a stamp set called Circle Circus. And that was one of my go-to stamp sets. I remember I owned it in wood mount. My wood blocks were so stained, but I absolutely loved that set because it was so versatile. There were so many things that you could do with it. Well, Circle Celebration is very, very similar and is just as versatile. So I'm going to show you some projects today. I see I've got some people joining me. Let me just pull up my video on my iPad so I can see who is here. Hi, Deb. Hi, Gail, Krista, Elfie, Judy, Gail. Thank you so much for joining me today. So are you ready to make some projects with the Circle Celebration stamp set? Let's get to it, okay? I'm going to flip the camera, so look away for a second so you don't get seasick, and then I will tell you when we're set to go, okay? Here we go. All right, I think we are in good shape. That's looking pretty good. All right, so Circle Celebration, such a fantastic set. So many eclectic designs and works for masculine cards, feminine cards. You can do so many cool color combos. I love this set. Now, you'll notice that this set does not include sentiments, right? So it's an image only set. So you're going to need something in the way of sentiments. So I grabbed the Happy Thoughts set. This is also in the mini. I'll just show you real quick where to find it. It's one of our $1 Million Achiever stamp sets. It's on page 28, and it's got great sentiments for many occasions. And what I love about it is that it has sentiments for inside the card as well. So I love that this set includes both for the front of the card and for the inside. So that's what we're going to be using today. So I'm going to set the cases aside. So we're going to start with some simple stamping. All right, this set is so great that you can layer images and keep it super simple. So this is just cardstock, ink, and stamps. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a piece of basic white cardstock. This is 3 3/4 by 5. So it's a little bit smaller than I typically use, but that's just because I wanted a larger border all the way around. Now with this set, I'll just show you my stamp case. It's actually empty. Whenever I have these collage type stamp sets, the first thing I do is mount every single stamp in the set. So here is my basket of stamps. So I'm going to keep it handy because we're going to use a ton of them. In fact, we're going to use every single stamp in here today. But we're going to start with this one. And again, I'm going to pull in the set so you can see a little bit better. So it's this sort of modeled circle. Okay, so we're going to start with that, and I'm going to pull in, I'll show you my color palette for this card. So we've got Soft Seafoam, Granny Apple Green, Daffodil Delight, Magenta Madness, and Bermuda Bay. All right, so I'm going to start with my Soft Seafoam, and we're going to ink up that sort of circle stamp, and we're going to stamp it twice. So I'm going to do it sort of once, sort of towards the left a little bit and in the middle. Okay, now I should mention you're going to want to use a Stampin' Pierce mat or something underneath these stamps. Okay, I'm just noticing I had Bermuda Bay in this. You can see a little hint of it. I didn't clean this stamp, but that's okay. So you're going to want a mat. I've got my pad of grid paper, so I'm okay, but you want to make sure you have something underneath, especially this stamp, because it's got quite a bit of real estate. Okay, so I'm stamping that circle. You can see the Bermuda Bay in that. That's okay, it's gonna be a cool effect. So I'm stamping that circle 3 times. Okay. Yes, Deb, we did get the big snow. We had a weather impacted learning day, which meant that we were teaching online again, because you know, we haven't done enough online teaching the last year and a half. All right, then I'm going to pull in my Granny Apple Green, and this stamp, it kind of looks like vines. Okay. And I am going to stamp it once in my circle in the middle here. Okay. And then I've still got sort of my outline, see on my grid paper where I stamp. So I'm just going to kind of line that up, and I just want a little hint of it down at the bottom here. And then I'm going to do the same thing up in this corner. Okay, so there are my Granny Apple Green vines. So we'll set that one aside. And I should really keep all my inks and stamps together here. I got so many of them. All right, next we're going to pull in our Daffodil Delight and this sort of floral medallion stamp. And I'm going to ink this up, but I'm actually going to stamp off with this one. So I'm going to ink my stamp once on my grid paper, and then stamp on my cardstock. Okay, so again, ink, stamp, and one more time, ink, stamp, and I'm actually going to do one more down the corner here while I have it out. Okay, it's already looking pretty, isn't it? I love, love, love this set. All right, next we have this cool, where is it? There it is. This cool, it's sort of like a partial floral stamp. And I'm going to bring in my Magenta Madness. Now, I adore this color. I just cannot seem to stop using it. So I'm going to stamp that a few times, and look at how it just brings that whole design to life. It's just, it's the party color. I love this ink. All right, and then our last touch is a little bit of Bermuda Bay, and we have a spatter stamp. Gotta love spatter stamps, and I kind of stamped them in the vines. I wanted them to kind of look like there are maybe little blooms or berries in the vines. So we're gonna just do a couple there and a couple there, and then we're just gonna do a couple little guys just sort of coming on at the bottom here just to kind of tie that in. Isn't that pretty? Just stamps, ink, and cardstock. Love it. All right, the last bit of stamping on this is to stamp our sentiment. So this sentiment says, just wanted to send some happy thoughts your way. And honestly, who would not be happy to receive this card? It's so sunny and bright. Quite the opposite of what the weather is like, right? Actually, it's quite sunny and bright here today after our big snowstorm, but it certainly is cold. Now I'm talking and trying to stamp straight. That's always risky. All right, so there's my sentiment. So easy. And then it's just a matter of gluing this baby together. We're done. Like, so simple. So I have here a piece of Granny Apple Green. It is cut to 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. So I'm gonna have a nice narrow border. You know me and my narrow borders. I like them a lot. So we'll add a little bit of adhesive to the back here. And we're gonna pop this on. Just like that, hopefully straight. Okay, and then I'm going to layer that on my card base. So this is thick basic white. It's 4 1/4 by 11 inches, scored in the middle at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that in half along our score line. And we're gonna pop this onto the front of our card. And honestly, this is one of the simplest cards I have done in a long while. I have to say, normally I'm all about layers and texture and embellishments and ribbon. But sometimes it's fun to just play with ink and paper. Isn't that pretty? So simple and so quick. Love this set. All right, so that's number 1 done. We're gonna set that aside, someplace where I remember where I put it so I can show you at the end. All right, let's get these guys out of the way. And this one too. Just trying to do a little bit of cleaning up here because we're gonna move on, and I wanna make sure I remember to clean my stamps because we are using very different color palettes. All right, look at how grubby my chamois is, but you know what? It still cleans my stamps. Alrighty, here we go. Hello, Bonnie. How are you? Okay, next one is this pretty. Now, isn't that just gorgeous? So delicate and pretty. And for this one, I am using some of our Oh So Ombre DSP. So this is the Celebration DSP. Celebration is on for just 2 more weeks, a little bit less than 2 weeks actually. And this paper is one of the freebies, and I absolutely love it. I'm going to be sad when it's done. So for this one, our color palette is much more limited. We're just using Rococo Rose and Blushing Bride. So I'm going to start with my lighter shade. I want to make sure I clean that really well, because we're going to use that sort of partial floral stamp again. Okay, so I'm going to ink it up in the Blushing Bride, and I'm going to stamp it a few times just along that bottom edge. Okay, then I'm going to ink and stamp, and I'm going to do some stamped off. Okay, the reason that we do this, especially when we're collage stamping, is to add depth and texture. Okay, so just really subtle. And then we're going to bring in our Rococo Rose. And we're going to ink that one up. So here's our Rococo Rose. So again, I'm going to add some full strength. Okay, and then I'm going to add some stamped off. And they have just a little bit more presence than the stamped off Blushing Bride. And add just a little bit more texture. I'm going to add one more full strength one over here. And I think I'm going to do a little bit more there. I'm going to do a couple more stamped off ones. So essentially what I'm doing is adding texture and depth with just a single stamp. Okay, it's really easy to do, but isn't that pretty? So simple, and the ombre paper just makes it so quick. All right, last step is to do some heat embossing. So this stamp is my favorite one in the set. It's got this sort of wreath medallion kind of look, and it just looks amazing heat embossed in white. So we're actually going to do that a couple of times today. Oh, thanks, Deb. I'm glad you like it. It's so pretty. So I'm going to very generously use my embossing buddy. Now, the embossing buddy is not something we carry anymore, but for this, especially when you've done a bunch of stamping and you have ink on your paper, you want to use the embossing buddy to get the moisture out of your paper, okay? Because when we stamp, we only want our ink to stick, or sorry, our powder rather, to stick to the ink and not to all the stuff that's in the background. Okay, so I'm going to ink up my stamp with the Versamark, and I'm going to stamp it a few times, probably 3, because that tends to be what our eye prefers. And one more time. Hi, Jill. How are you? Okay, now you can't really see that. You will see it better when I add my embossing powder. So I'm going to bring in my little tray. Now, before anybody asks me where I got my tray, I have had this for probably 10 years. I got it at the dollar store, Dollarama here in Canada, years ago. It's actually a beading tray, but it works perfectly for embossing powder. So now you can see better where I stamped those little medallions? Okay. So I'm going to set this aside. We're going to use that on our next card, so I'm not going to bother putting it back in the pot yet. And then I'm going to pull in my heat tool. So I'm going to make some noise here. So if you don't like listening to the heat tool, just cover your ears for a minute. But we're going to heat this, and you're going to see that those medallions are just going to pop. Here we go. Now, isn't that just something? Heat embossing is the thing that got me hooked on stamping, I have to tell you. First time I saw that technique, I was like, okay, just give me all the things I need to do that at home, and I'll be a happy girl. So that is my background. All right, pretty easy. You can certainly do it without the heat embossing step if you don't have the tools for heat embossing. But honestly, it really, really makes things pop. Now, my next step is to add a little bit of ribbon. So I have some of that gorgeous Blushing Bride metallic ribbon. Now this is currently on back order. It may even have graduated to not orderable at the moment. It's coming back in stock, I think, beginning of March. So just be advised, I'm using this ribbon, but you're not going to be able to get it for a little bit. Okay, and actually, did I use it? I used the pink side. I put my glue dot on the wrong side. So it's double-sided, I should mention. One side is kind of a gold metallic weave, and the back is sort of a shimmery Blushing Bride. So we're actually going to use the Blushing Bride side. I've used the gold side a few times on projects in the past. So we'll just snip that off. I forgot my good ribbon scissors. That's not good. It's a good thing I don't need to cut a neat edge that we're going to see. So we'll just make sure that's nice and straight, and we're going to lay it across our card front just like that. Okay, next up I have here one of our square vellum doilies. Now I didn't want a square, I wanted to kind of continue with the circle theme that I have going on this card. So I'm going to show you how to turn your square into a circle. So we're going to take and we're going to cut just with our snips. We're going to take the doily and we're going to trim off just the corners. So I'm just taking and snipping the corners of my doily off, and I get a round doily. So these square vellum doilies are an awesome, inexpensive way to add a little wow to your project. It also adds a really subtle layer. I really love these. I use these a lot. You've probably seen me use them before. So we'll just trim that last little bit off. There we go. Get rid of our scraps. Okay, and now I have a round doily. See how easy that was? So that is going to get layered on top of our ribbon. So I'm going to put some adhesive, where is my seal? Here it is, sort of across where my label is going to go, just to hold that in place. It's going to get tacked on better once I get my label and everything on. Okay, but that's just going to hold it in place for now. Okay, all right, next I have a label cut with the succulents dies. I love this label. It's my favorite label shape. And again, another sentiment that I've heat embossed in white on Rococo Rose cardstock. Okay, this sentiment is also from the Happy Thought set. And then I also, ahead of time, heat embossed that same medallion on some Rococo Rose cardstock and then die cut it using my layering circles die. So I just got the little daisies. So what I'm going to do now is cut these in half, and we're going to adhere them above and below our little label. Okay, now I could have left them intact. It was just the teeniest bit too small for the look that I was going for. So I felt like I had to cut it. So it's just that, like, about 1/8 of an inch, not even, difference, but it was enough of a difference that it made it worth it to me to trim it. So there's half going there, and then the other half is going to go on here. And again, I want to just, it's easiest if you do this kind of lining it up from the back. Okay, just see how that kind of works there. So we're going to add a couple of glue dots to this. And then again, I'm just going to line this up right about there. Okay, I just love that look. I thought it was a nice little accent around the sentiment. And then here, this is that same floral medallion that we stamped on the last card in the Daffodil Delight. All I did is I stamped it on some of the Ombre DSP. I stamped it in Rococo Rose ink, and then I fussy cut out the actual flower. Okay, and we're going to take and cut that in half, and we're going to use half on one corner of our label. So this top corner, did I put that in the right spot? I hope so. So it's going to go right there. And then the other half is going to go down here. So that's a sneaky little way to only have to fussy cut once, but get the look of 2 flowers. Okay? For those of you who don't like fussy cutting. All right. Yes, I had to do paper surgery, Louise. I certainly did. So that's now going to get put on with a couple of dimensionals. So let's find our, where are my white dimensionals? I've only got minis. All right. Well, we'll use minis for now. I'll have to grab my extra dimensionals from my other desk. But we'll finish this one up with minis because it'll work. So we'll just put a mini there and a mini there, and I'm just going to put one at the top and the bottom of my little frame here. I just want to make sure I get this on so that they're not visible. And then we'll peel off our backings. Get rid of all these little bits. Whoopsie, uh-oh, pulled my flower off. That's not good. Let's tuck that back in there. Make sure that's stuck. All right, so then this is going to get centered on our vellum doily, just like that. Okay, isn't that pretty? Oh, so pretty. And then that's just going to go on a white card base. So this is, again, thick basic white. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we'll fold that in half along our score line. Crisp that up, and then add a little adhesive. And then pop that on to our card base. Super, super simple. You'll notice there's not a lot of layers. Now this is a little bit fussier than the first card, and certainly fussier than the last one we're gonna do. But it's so, so pretty. I love the layers that you can achieve with this stamp set. And then the last touch is to add some pearls, because I thought this was a pearly kind of look. I don't know. I just thought it needed some pearls. And I love my embellishments, and I didn't use any on the last card, so we're going to make up for it on this one. Are you guys okay with that? Let's put this guy down here, and then we'll put one up here, and one more. There we go. Okay, so, so pretty and easy. All right, so that is number 2. You like that one? I hope you do. All right, now comes my favorite, my very favorite. And this is one that got lots of attention yesterday when I posted it. So it's this one here. And I think what caught everybody's eye is the color combo. It is such a fun, happy, bold color combo. So let me show you how to do this. It is so much easier than you might think. It's a little bit more complex than the last card because we're not using ombre paper. Somebody actually commented on one of my projects that they loved the ombre DSP, but this isn't actually ombre DSP. The ombre DSP does not come in purple. Well, it comes in the blackberry, I believe. But this is purple Posy. So I'm going to show you how we're going to get that ombre look using a blending brush and 2 shades of purple. So this is our color palette for this this card. So we've got Magenta Madness, Highland Heather, Gorgeous Grape, and Night of Navy. Hi Debbie, how are you? All right, so we're gonna start with our Highland Heather. And although my sponging is on the left side, I'm actually gonna sponge on the right and then flip it because I'm right-handed. That's the only reason why. There's not any like secret magical reason. It's just because it's easier for me to sponge from the right because I'm a righty. So I'm starting with my Highland Heather, and I'm coming on, and again, with our blending brushes, you'll get the best results when you use a circular motion. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise, does not really matter. Somebody asked me how hard I press with these. You really can't press hard. They are flexible. Okay, so if you try to press too hard, you won't get a whole lot of pressure, all right? Which is one of the reasons they're so nice to work with, because they kind of control the amount of pressure that you use, and that's what allows you to get nice, even blending. Okay, if you have not tried the blending brushes yet, and you are someone who, you know, maybe it shies away from blending ink, you need to try these brushes. It will change your life, I guarantee. All right, so you can see how this side is starting to shade a little bit with the Highland Heather. So I'm just going to do a little bit more with this shade, and then we're going to go darker. All right, so that's the Highland Heather. We're going to keep that handy because we're going to need it to do some stamping. But first, we're going to add a little bit of Gorgeous Grape. So again, pick up a little bit of ink, and we're going to come on from the edge and just blend it out. Oh, got a dark little bit there. We can fix. That's the best thing about this. When you get a dark little patch that you're not so happy with, it's easy to fix. And look at that cool ombre effect that we're getting. Isn't that amazing? Oh, I love these brushes. And I love these shades. So one way, and I showed you this I think a couple of weeks ago, to kind of speed up your ombre blending is to start with a colored piece of cardstock. Okay, so by starting with the purple Posy, I saved myself the step of having to cover the entire piece in the light shade. So if I'd started with white, this would have taken me a whole lot longer, right? Okay, so there is my blended cardstock. Isn't that pretty? So, so pretty. Love it. All right, now it's time for stamping. So we're going to start with our Highland Heather and this polka dot circle. Okay, so I'm all about polka dots. Polka dots they work for everybody. Young, old, male, female, they're just fun. So we're just going to stamp a few of these polka dot circles, just sort of along that blended edge of the card. Okay, I might add a little bit more up here. Maybe just a little titch here. And again, whenever you're doing a collage, we always want to make sure that some of our images are extending off the edge, right? Okay, so now we're going to bring in our Gorgeous Grape. And I'm going to bring in that floral medallion image. Now, this is when you want to make sure you ink well, right? Because it's got a lot of real estate, and you want to make sure you get a nice quality image as you're stamping. But look at how fantastic that image is. Oh, so gorgeous. Seriously, I could play with this stamp set for the rest of my life and not get bored. I just love it. All right, so there's my Gorgeous Grape. So pretty just with those two colors. Then we're going to pull in our Magenta Madness, and we are going to use that same floral stamp. I'm just going to stamp off the Rococo Rose. And this just pops like you would not believe against the purple. Look how amazing that looks. I just love this. So great. Oh, I love it so much. Oh, Sue, you love it too? I could seriously just look at this forever. Then our last bit of stamping with ink is this little tiny flower, and we're going to add the Night of Navy. So this is kind of unexpected color in this combo, but I wanted something that would kind of function as a neutral and help to ground all of these brights. So we're just going to add a few of these. We'll do one more up here. And you want to take care when you're inking these little bitty stamps. It's easy to not ink the whole stamp, to kind of rock it a little bit. So you just want to take care and make sure you're getting it fully inked. Isn't that awesome? I know, Louise, isn't it gorgeous the way it pops? So, so pretty. All right, now the ultimate is adding this beautiful wreath medallion image. So we're gonna do the same thing we did before. We're gonna very, very liberally use our embossing buddy, because we want to get rid of as much of the moisture in the inks that we've just laid down here as we can. And we put a lot of ink on, right, from the blending and all the stamping. So I want to make sure I get rid of as much of that as possible. And then we're going to bring in our Versamark again. And we'll ink up this beauty again. And we're going to stamp 3 times. So 1 And again here, 2. And one more time down here. Okay, and again, that won't show up until we add our embossing powder. Now, this is where we find out if we were generous enough with our embossing buddy. When I made this the first time, I was not generous enough with my embossing buddy, and I ended up with powder everywhere. So it was a tedious little job to brush all of the excess powder that stuck in places that I didn't want it. So you can see that pink flower there? It's got powder stuck to it that I don't want. Sometimes you can just flick it off, and I think I've got most of it. Just see if we can clean that up a bit, and a little bit more down here on the bottom. All right, there we go. We are ready to heat, and this is where the magic happens again. All right. So again, I'm going to stop talking and we're going to heat this. All right, there we go. Is that not gorgeous? Like, I seriously could stamp like a 12 by 12 piece and use it as artwork. I love it. All right, now the rest is easy to finish, super quick. So we are going to use, this is the Playing with Patterns ribbon combo pack. So this is navy, it's 1/8 inch wide, and it's sort of like taffeta ribbon. So it's quite sheer. So I'm gonna actually do a double thickness of this because I wanted to have a little bit more presence than just a single one would give me. Again, because we've got so many bold images on this card, I wanted my ribbon to have just a little bit more presence. So I'm going to put one layer across the front and then do a second layer just narrowly spaced. So I don't know, what is that, 1/8 of an inch maybe? I think that's about right. I don't know, I just eyeball it. Maybe 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to add another glue dot. Okay, isn't that pretty? I just love the way that that ribbon shimmers and picks up the light. Okay, all right, so we're gonna go ahead and glue this down before we add our sentiment. So I have a gorgeous grape card base. I experimented with different colors and it's amazing what a difference different colored card bases makes with this card. The magenta, totally different. Like each color that I used, I experimented, and my favorite was the gorgeous grape. So this is 5.5 by 8.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we're gonna fold that in half along our score line. And then we'll add a little bit of adhesive. I've got powder from my embossing buddy all over my fingers. It's kind of gritty. All right, so we're gonna pop this on the front. Did I mention that I started with a 4 by 5 1/4 inch piece of purple posy? I'm not sure if I mentioned that. I will put all of the measurements in the description when I'm done. Okay. All right, now we are going to stamp our sentiment. So again, this thank you sentiment is from the Happy Thoughts stamp set. So I'm going to stamp in navy. I've got a stitched rectangle from the Stitched Rectangle dies, and this is where I always have my challenge. I'm going to move this a little closer. I hope you guys can still see it, but I need to try, heavy on the try, to stamp this straight. It's very hard to do. Oh, it's a little crooked, but I can live with it. It's very hard to do when you're not looking straight down. All right, so we're gonna pop this onto our card with a couple of dimensionals, or mini dimensionals as the case may be, or the border of the dimensionals, because that works too. So we're gonna put one there, and we'll put a couple of minis across here. I really need to get some more dimensionals. There we go, we'll do that. And we'll get rid of our backings. And we're gonna pop this on. And I want my ribbon to kind of run through the middle. So it's gonna be centered on the ribbon. Okay, just like that. And then we are going to tie a bow. So here's your bow tying lesson for this week. Now this is really sheer ribbon, okay? So it's very slippery. So you wanna make sure you pull your knot really tight. So we're making our loops, okay? Keeping the ribbon flat, crossing the left one over the right, and pulling it through. Okay, adjust the size of your loops until you're happy with them, and then pull tight. Okay, if you don't pull it tight, your ribbon will come apart, or your bow will come apart. Let me see if I can grab my other scissors, because this ribbon will fray if I don't use good scissors. There we go. All right, so we're gonna glue that right in the corner there. So we'll just grab a glue dot and press the knot of our bow into our glue dot, and then that is going to go right in the corner, just like that. Okay, and then the last step, do you see these little bubbles on here? They are one of my favorite embellishments. I love these. They're actually the Flowers for Every Season gems. These are actually intended as shaker filler for shaker cards, but I love using them as embellishments all by themselves. So what we do is I take my sticky blue goo end of my Take Your Pick, and I just kind of plunk them where I want them to go. So there's larger ones and smaller ones. So there's a large one, there's a small one. My fingers are sticky, they're sticking to my fingers. And then there's a large one, come on, and a small one. Pop that guy on there, come on. And then we need another small. It's gonna go down here. Where's this one gonna go? It's gonna go down here. My blue goo end is too sticky. And then we need one more large one. There we go. Okay, now these are not self-adhesive, so we need some glue. So you can use either the fine tip glue or some shimmery crystal effects. I like the shimmery crystal effects because it's got a little bit of glitter in it. So all I do, once I kind of have an idea of where I want them, I just pick it up with my Take Your Pick, put a little dab of the shimmery crystal effects down, and then plunk my embellishment into place. Now, my fingers are sticky and it doesn't want to stick. There we go. I'm going to make this. There we go. That's going to be a little less sticky. I picked up some of the Embossing Buddy stuff that was on my grid paper. Okay, another little dab. And plunk it down. Come on, stay you. This is normally not this difficult, guys, trust me. It's just my blue goo end is really sticky for some reason right now. And we'll add another one here. And the nice thing about the shimmery crystal effects is it dries very hard. It's very strong adhesive. And if you get it kind of in places where you don't want it, like if you get too much, or it oozes out behind your little bubble, it's okay. It just adds a little bit of, it looks like the bubble is kind of melting, which works. Come on, there we go. And two more. This is taking way longer than it normally does because my blue goo end is super sticky for some reason. There we go. And one more down here. It's gonna go right there. There we go. So pretty. I love it. Whoops, I'm trying to put my Take Your Pick on my shimmery crystal effect. All right, so let me get rid of this mess here so I can show you all of these cards together again, and then I'm going to show you a couple more that I did. So there is that one. I'll bring these guys back too. We've got these, and then I'm going to show you a few more. Now this is one that I posted earlier today. Okay, again, collage stamping. On this one, I actually embossed the background to give it a little bit of texture. So I stamped first and then embossed. Okay, super pretty. This one is another take on this one. So I wanted to try a masculine card using the same layout, and I was really happy with the way this turned out. So that is posted on my Instagram. It's also posted, I think, on Facebook as well. So you can see I posted with the color palette, so you can see exactly what colors I used. Here's another take, same basic layout. Okay, this one's in shades of green. And then this one, I wanted to see what I could do to create a little bit of a scene. So I thought this kind of looked like a desert scene. I don't know. That's just kind of what a desert scene with a sunset was kind of my thinking. But there you go. Honestly, you guys, the Circle Celebration set is one that you need. It is so versatile, so much fun. I honestly could play with this forever. It's just so much fun. All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed these projects, and I hope you are staying safe and warm wherever you are. We've had lots of snow here in Ontario over the last 24 hours, so I hope you are safe and warm and dry, and I will see you again next week for another episode of Tuesday Live at 5. Bye for now.